Like many of you, we battle depression during life's ups and downs.
Music has always been the one thing that we could rely on to get us through the tough times that we all face.
Follow us on our journey as we discuss the healing power of music,
Interview bands,
break down genres,
review band biographies,
and more.
This is the When Words Fail
Music Speaks podcast
with Blake Mosley
and James Cox. Hey everybody, welcome back to When Words Fail Music Speaks podcast, where we fight depression with the power of music. I'm your handicapped host, James Cox. I got a very, very important and interesting guest for us today. Her name is Courtney McKenna. But first, before we bring on, let me introduce her to y'all. Did I say that right, McKenna?
Yep, that's right. Hi, thank you for having me today.
There's no problem. So Courtney McKenna is a high energy rock and roll artist.
Yes,
Pulling references from classical songwriting tradition and modern day activism. Right? Okay, yeah, I said it right. Sometimes I can't read right, so it's all right.
Got it.
And, influenced by surf rock, grunge, the blues, folk, and outlaw country. Courtney is a charismatic and powerful performer who is always seeking new ways to engage her audience. Courtney's second band, Sweet Miss, is a favorite among online streaming communities. Together, their performances spark genuine excitement and enthusiasm to every room that they fill. In 2022, Courtney anticipates the release of 3 new singles, telling her side of the story of her own experience with addiction. We'll get into that because that's very important.
Yeah.
She intends to use her platform to continue to raise awareness and funds for mental health, and I love that. Courtney, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
How are you doing today?
Good. It's a beautiful Friday.
Yeah.
And, I had a meeting earlier with a new manager, and that's really exciting. Just one day at a time, chipping away. So.
Well, I do want to thank you for coming on the show because I guess we got in contact last year sometime. Pod Match, and I want to give a big shout out to Pod Match because they're great.
I met a lot of really cool people so far.
Yeah, so for anybody who doesn't know about Pod Match, it's the thing where they match you up with certain guests, and you found us. So thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, no problem. So grunge. Let's talk about grunge music for a minute, okay?
Sure.
I love grunge.
Yeah.
And I just told you that before you came on, I was listening to STP, and they're like, I don't know if they're my all-time favorite grunge band. I think Nirvana is, but it's Nirvana. It's the big 5. It's Nirvana, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, and STP. Which one of those 5 that I just said is your favorite of all time? It's hard.
Probably Nirvana.
Yes. I love it.
I don't know if that's the easiest answer, but I feel like that's, that they definitely made their mark. And I feel like, I didn't really listen to a lot of rock growing up. It was only when I moved to New York that I was like having this whole musical awakening, so it really spoke to me in a lot of moments there.
Well, that's not the easy choice, but it's the correct choice around here because we love Nirvana to death. I was reminiscing. I was going back through the catalog the other day, and they have so many great songs that I don't think get played really up because you're used to like Smell Like Teen Spirit, Heart Shaped Box, and Bloom, is like one of the greatest songs ever. And it's just those 3. I mean, they got a whole. Nobody listens to their first album, which was Bleach.
Yeah. That's true.
That's great. Yeah.
But yeah, I love his songwriting. It was very poetic, and it could be taken for what it was, or it also could have been interpreted in a lot of different ways. And I think I love that about like the 90s, as a lot of music sort of had this double meaning to it. And, it's like heavy. It's like, it can be really cathartic just because it's heavy rock for,
Right.
I feel like the 90s was like the last sort of decade of that, of like real rock and roll, in my opinion. Like there's definitely been some good stuff since then, but um I don't know, it's in a league of its own, I think. So
Yeah, yeah, I think Nirvana single-handedly killed hair metal bands. Single, that's hard to say. That's
yeah.
really, that's really like a great accomplishment, but I do love the 80s metal. I mean, it's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah.
I mean, you can't not hate. Like they did their thing.
Right. Right. So, so you are like my sister in this way. So,
Yeah.
before I had you on, I researched you, of course, and it it said you have a bachelor's in science degree and in retailing and consumer science with a
Yep.
double minor in business administration and marketing from the University of Arizona. Tell me
Yep.
about that because you seem
Yeah.
really smart and I want to know everything from you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I went to U of A, thinking that I was going to study marketing as my major. And they have a really competitive business program there. And I forget if it was like the first or second year into it, but I was really into fashion at the time. And I actually thought that that's what I wanted to do out of school. And so, um, you know, I could have gone through the marketing minor and like found my way into fashion, but they had this new program where, it shared the same prerequisites and stuff for with the business school, but it was more of a science based program where it focused on buying. And Terry J. Lundgren, who was like the long-term CEO of Macy's, was the founder of the school, so it was kind of an exciting thing. And I liked the idea of doing something that was a little bit more directly related to that industry. Even though once I immediately, got out of school and moved to New York, I just realized I did not want to be working in fashion at all.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, New York is okay. Okay, so since you said that, let's talk about New York for a minute because I had a
Yeah.
guest on my show and he moved to New York and had to move away from New York because he said there's two classes in New York, rich and poor.
Mm,
So, and yeah, he said he didn't like it for for many reasons.
yeah.
But he and
It-
I discussed like they said of New York as a trap, like you never want to leave when you live there.
True.
Is that true? Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely. I thought I was never going to leave. I was there for 9 years. And I think after year 4, I was already like, well, maybe I'll move to California, and then like another 5 years went
Yeah.
by.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. It's just, there's something about the energy of the city that's just so addicting and it's so special in that way.
Right.
Um, that it's very energizing and it can be really intense, but
In a good way.
in a good way, but also, it was hard to definitely sort of center myself and find that balance of like peace. You need to take breaks sometimes, and I definitely worked like sometimes 6 different jobs.
Right. Yeah.
um so yeah, it was definitely not exactly, every sitcom that was ever filmed in New York shows these young kids like living in big old apartments and having the best time, and it's like,
That's not
in
true.
what world? Like, yeah.
See,
I
that's
mean,
the magic of TV because they'll get you with like ads and stuff too. Yeah. Yeah. But it's not. It doesn't work that way.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like, I think it was a great experience. Like, I definitely learned a lot, and there's definitely a magic of the city where there's people of all different kinds all over, so it's like you can really like choose your own adventure and explore yourself. And I think it's really easy to get lost in that also, but somehow I made it out okay. So
Um. Also, again, while I was researching you, it's in your bio on your website, CourtneyMcKenna.com.
Mhm.
Please everybody go there too, because that's great too.
That rocks.
Yes, yes.
That
Uh,
rocks.
yeah, it said that you did most of your writing in New York because you were felt alone and depressed.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
And
I
I get
think
that. I get that because New Yorkers aren't the very nicest human beings alive. So I totally get that too. Yeah, yeah.
well, I really love the people who are there, but I think that the hard part about it is that there's so many people that in theory, like you should be able to go and make friends, but like I said, it can be really hard to get lost in it. And I think for me, I made the choice to sort of stop drinking at one point when I was out there, and a lot of the friends that I had made up until that point were like really big partiers, and I used to be in that scene, so
Yeah.
like sort of channeling my feelings into music has always been really therapeutic. And um I used to do it in high school and in middle school too, but I never put my music out there or like played those songs for anyone. So um being around other artists, I was really encouraged to do that. And I think when we talk about loneliness now, looking back, that I've like worked on myself a lot, it's like it's all a matter of perspective, because I was feeling lonely because I was like feeling sorry for myself instead of stepping outside and putting myself out there and like being grateful for all of the opportunities that were right in front of my door, but I couldn't see them. Yeah.
So, you said that. So how did you build up the confidence to get out and do what you wanted to do?
It was one step at a time. I think um when I first got to New York, I didn't have a sewing machine with me. I didn't even have a guitar. I just had like one suitcase, but um when I was in college, I had a small business where I was like making costumes and tailoring things for people. And so that was sort of also what I did for fun too, for myself. And so when I got to New York and I didn't have that, I was like, well, what's another thing that I really love? And I just kind of was like, oh, this is my time to like give singing a shot. And I got on a Craigslist and I like met some people, and I did some backup vocals for an R&B group in Newark, New Jersey. And then I met another band in Brooklyn and I did some singing with them. And yeah, I mean, before, I think it was only I lived in New Jersey for a few months, and then I was in Brooklyn for a few months before I found my apartment, which was called the Rad Pad, and that was like a house full of artists.
Nice.
So yeah, I got really lucky. It wasn't like the cleanest or the nicest place to live, but it was full of inspiration.
I think that I swear to God, because the first apartment where everybody is all like nasty and jumble when you don't get out there and get a better place. Because
Hmm.
if one door closes, another window opens, and that. So that works. That's true for everybody. So
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
so going back to music, what's your favorite female fronted band, or do you have one? Because there's
Ooh.
because there's lots of female front, and I personally love female voices the best. I don't know what it is, but
I
but I
love
think
that.
that they can get higher notes than men can. To be honest with you,
Yeah,
men
yeah.
can get that guttural growling like a Cannibal Corpse and all
Hmm.
these metal bands. But I find the best um music being sung by any kind of female because they can reach the more higher notes, and I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, talk about range. I mean, I've been inspired by a lot of female singers. Like I definitely loved more classic jazz in high school, like Ella Fitzgerald or Etta James. Um, when I was just in moving to New York, I went through a whole Janis Joplin phase.
Right.
I always cover at least one Blondie tune.
Ooh, nice.
I love Jefferson Airplane because they have a female singer, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
so I have three female fronting bands that I think you were listening to, and they're all rock.
Okay.
Have you heard of Venues?
Venues, no.
Okay, Venues. They're a German metal band, and
Oh,
their lead singer Leela is amazing. You know,
okay.
she replaced another female. Have had two females in their band, but now they're only Leela's spectacular. I've interviewed them and they're great.
Cool. I'm taking notes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay. So another one is called No Bro.
No, bro.
Nobro. Because there's no men in the band. You know, it's great.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's all females too. And
Nice.
one of my favorite bands that I met through this podcast is the Dead Deads. Them,
Okay.
they're great too. The
The
Dead
Dead.
the Dead
Cool.
Dead. All of their last name is like you have like the lead singer's Meta Dead, the bassist is the Daisy Dead. It's always something dead, you know.
Oh, that's funny. Like the Ramones.
Yeah, except their drummer, which is McQueen, and she's fantastic. I um I got the chance to see him live one time after I interviewed him.
Oh, cool.
Uh, and I brought my cousin with me, and he
Mhm.
says McQueen, the drummer, he
Yeah.
was the best drummer that he's ever heard in his whole life.
Wow. That's a
Yeah,
huge.
so that is, especially for him because he's a musician too. You know,
Oh, cool.
yeah. So that's awesome that he said that. You know, and I actually interviewed him, so I got to meet the bassist, which is awesome. So
Very cool.
uh, going to the same question with
Mhm.
male, men voices.
Mhm.
Who do you think has the best voice of the male?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I mean, I've always been a fan of Robert Plant.
Yeah,
Um,
I can tell you mine.
sure.
Chris Cornell.
Oh, yeah, he's got
No,
a great voice.
no. I think nobody can beat him. Nobody.
Yeah. It's funny, I watched Eat, Pray, Love recently with a girlfriend, and he did like tracks on there, and it
Yeah,
was really interesting because we were like, wait, I know this voice, but like it was not, you know, Soundgarden material. It was very much like, yeah, he has a very distinct voice, and the songs were really good, but like the material, the content he was singing about, I was like, well, that
yeah.
can't be him. And then like the credits rolled, and I was like, whoa, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause, he did the theme song for a James Bond movie. It's a Casino
Mhm.
Royale. Yeah, so if you load it up, he'll just sing it right here. You know, it's great.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Cool.
to you, who would be the best male voice that you've heard in rock?
Um,
I know you said Robert Plant, but I mean, do you have like two or
More
three?
like modern. I
Yeah,
mean, I love Foo Fighters. I love Dave Grohl. I feel like he's it's interesting how I like that he doesn't take himself too seriously, and then it's like, he kind of keeps reinventing their
yeah,
project, their sound,
yeah.
but
And plus Nirvana, right? It's like a
yeah, I mean, that's an added bonus.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm trying to think of like more modern male singers. I feel like I listen to a lot of older stuff, I guess.
Did you ever listen to 4 Blondes?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Linda Perry.
Linda Perry has like the best rock vocals I've ever heard.
She's amazing.
She is.
Yeah. Yeah. I cover her song What's Up from time to time.
Great
Yeah.
song.
Yep. Yeah, totally. And honestly, I really like Miley Cyrus. Like, I don't know where that came from. I used to be super anti-pop, but I just like, I admire that she like really has stepped up her game, because she did all this like pop stuff, and then she got into crazy physical shape, and she was covering Led Zeppelin, and she was covering, all these classic tunes. I mean, I love Dolly Parton, of course. She's her, goddaughter, so she's like sing with her. She's and yeah, I think she's got kind of a unique voice, but she also seems to keep reinventing herself. And I don't know if I'm a huge fan of her pop stuff, but she does have a new song out that's pretty darn catchy. I don't know if you've heard it yet, but it's called Flowers. It's pretty good.
Didn't she start out as like a country singer first?
Yeah, well, she was on the Disney Channel.
Yeah.
And I think her character was like part-time regular schoolgirl and part-time undercover country singer, pop star or something. It's hilarious. I don't know. I feel like that was, my dream when I was a little girl.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you started your music journey since 2017, is that correct?
I started performing out. I gave my first performance in 2014.
Okay,
yeah.
2014.
Yeah. But the first thing I put out, I think, was about, or so maybe when I really got serious about recording was 2017.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So, was that your dream to always become a musician, or did you have any other venues you want to pursue first?
Definitely from an early age, I wanted to be a musician.
Okay.
A singer in particular. Like I listened to a lot of like country singers, and I guess as I grew older, I just never really felt like I got a ton of support from it, and it's partially because I didn't see any other artists in my world at that time who were doing it. Like I didn't even know that like music school existed,
Yeah.
I didn't know that was an option. Like everyone in my high school was like in band, but then it was like we all kind of just went to college, and so I mean, there were a few people that like had musical parents, but I think that we were sort of not close, so I thought that I wanted to be a fashion designer, and I didn't really understand how much time and energy and money it takes to do that. And I think it was a really fun experience, but ultimately when I started making music again, I was like, this is it. Like there's always more to explore. Like even if I don't have any gear, I have my voice. And that was really the first thing that I fell in love with, was singing. So, yeah.
So you had this dream and you fulfilled it to this day. Did your expectations of what it takes to become a musician, or were you kind of like, okay, well, this is sort of not what I wanted to do, and when you first started?
Well, I don't think I ever thought that it wasn't what I wanted to do. I think it's just more so been like the struggle comes in when it's like, okay, do I go out and meet friends, or do I like finish writing the song, or do I, I stay into practice, or I really want to buy this new guitar, but like I have to pay my rent, or like, it's I think that if you compare yourself to other people, because it's a journey, it's like, on one hand, I'm doing it. On one hand, I have a dream that is even bigger than what I'm doing right now, but it's like, it's finding that balance of like being content and really grateful and happy for where I am and the progress that I have made. And then also continuing to dream, because I think I definitely, I think everyone sort of has this idea that like either you're going to get discovered or like you're going to put a song out there and it's just going to like take off, but the reality is it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort and planning and, so.
Well, I was well, according to your press kit, you have on Daily Motion is that you have 7.8 thousand views in the first 24 hours. So I think
Yeah,
that's real good. Yeah,
that was incredible. Well,
and
so what happened was I got I met some, I was going to these, industry mixers in New York, and one of the curators was at an event. And so I told him, I was like, I have this new music video, like, maybe you could premiere it on your channel. And they don't necessarily do premieres, but he did go ahead and put it on like a featured video, and it was right after an Ariana Grande video. And so it was like immediately after Ariana Grande they would see my video, and it was so cool because I had no expectations. It's like you never know when something is gonna get seen or take off, or especially with the internet.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I I've been always curious because you've heard of bands that have backing bands that has names.
Hmm.
Like the Bob Seger Silver Bullet Band.
Yep.
I don't know anything else besides him. That was the first one that came to mind.
Hmm.
But you have the um
Sweet Myths.
yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you come up with a name, or did they collectively name themselves, or like how did
Yeah.
it come about?
Well, so they've actually been a band for 6 years
Okay,
already. So I met them about a year ago, and at first I just asked them if they wanted to play one gig, and then it turned into a second gig, and then it just kind of kept working out because they live down in San Diego, but I was playing down there a lot. So, whenever I do a show down there, we'd get together, we'd practice. And then for like the bigger shows in Hollywood and that sort of thing, they'd come up here and we'd play. So um it was really nice playing with them. It's like they already have a long friendship and history of playing together. So um writing out the parts with them and stuff sort of came together really naturally. And
because my next question is like, do you write with them now as opposed to when you first started out? Because I know, I mean, when you have a backing band, it kind of has to be more like a in sync with you kind of deal, right?
yeah, well, so we've tried writing songs a few times, but we haven't really put time away for that. Like we've gotten to record 2 songs together, but all of the songs that we've been playing are either covers or songs that I had already written. So,
Hmm.
we'll see. I'm working on some new stuff now, and yeah, I think we
I mean, like everything, it just takes time.
yeah, totally. And for writing for me has always been a really personal process. So it's
Yeah.
like now I'm trying to open myself up to co-writing, because it's like I believe in collaboration, and I know that you can get a lot more interesting results sometimes when you work with other people. So that's a whole nother vulnerable thing that I'm trying out.
Right. So,
Yeah.
I should have asked you this before we started, but music is a very powerful tool, and
Mhm.
you are a mental health advocate, and I can't do enough. So, I would imagine I don't want to assume because outside of you and me, but are you like diagnosed with depression or like how does music help you with your I don't know if you have depression, but I don't.
Sure. No, thank God I do not. I've definitely struggled with bouts of it.
Okay.
But I think the real reason why scooting in for this conversation I've suffered from burnout a lot, and I think that the pressure that I've put on myself, whether it be school or just work, and New York, like I said, it was pretty intense at times. So to be balancing so much on your plate and then not be considering your mental health really affected me. And so that's a little bit from like my own personal perspective. But I also lost a father to addiction, and
Yeah.
that sort of really made me want to talk about it, because I think that it is becoming something a little bit more mainstream, but it's also something that's really new, like our parents' generation and generations before them, it was really taboo to talk about
Yeah.
things that were not so nice.
And I don't think the word depression was invented back then. Well, I don't want to say invented, but I don't think they knew exactly what depression was back then. So they really didn't have they didn't know what was going on back then. I think, I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's mental health is sort of like a new area of study, I think, for a lot of people, because um it's like we've always just looked at, like, I think that the general feeling is that our humanity can be fixed by a pill or you know
Yeah.
whatever it is. but
Yeah.
but the reality is that our mind, and this is all the neuroscience stuff that is coming out now, is like our mind is so much more powerful than any sort of helpful pills that we could take, like, and I'm not saying like if you really need antidepressants, like that is also a real thing, but
Right, yeah.
I yeah I think that there's just to give you an example, like in college I was really burnt out. Like I was living in a sorority house, and I was house manager. I was taking all of these classes and trying to graduate early because I was over it. I just wanted to be out of there. And I was drinking like 6 cups of coffee a day, like insane.
Six.
Like I
Uh,
just was like water, like
okay.
literal.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let me say this. I like coffee, but I don't know the six would be healthy for anybody. So
Yeah. No.
congratulations to you for doing that, but don't ever do that again, please.
Would not recommend, would not. Um, I also, like, I did not have a prescription to Adderall, but I
Yeah.
had access to it, and I was taking Adderall. Like I was doing all the things to like have this sort of mind over matter mindset of like getting it done, being an achiever, being, the best, finishing things, whatever. And I went to like 3 different doctors. I was having terrible headaches, like migraines, and I I got my blood drawn, I had CAT scans, I had like all this lab stuff done to me because I was like, something is wrong. Something is totally wrong, and I feel sick. I am not happy. And when it came down to it, I finally found a hypnotherapist that was like, you need to relax. Like that was pretty much it. Like
Did you
I,
did you
you
tell
know,
her that you drink 6 cups of coffee?
I don't know.
No,
He
dude.
definitely, I don't remember
Okay.
exactly. I think it was probably like you need to cut back, but I do remember, I had some like herbs and stuff that he recommended for um my gut and everything like that. But like the you know the moral of the story is that like if we're like trying to fix a problem, you know, in the very like defined framework of what we think it is, like we're just gonna we're never necessarily gonna get to the root if like that doesn't even consider these other things, you know, like
Right.
and I think that mental health is very much like that. It's like, you know, there's so many factors that make us feel things, and if we're not actively finding ourselves in places where we can process this stuff, then it builds up, and it really creates resentment, it creates sickness in the body, you know, and whether that's putting too much pressure on yourself for XYZ reasons, or maybe it's just like, you know, you're feeling lonely because you you yeah, you don't feel like you have the support. It's like there's you know, you can have like this victim mentality, or you can like be grateful, but like there's so much more
Mm.
training it takes to get your head straight, you know.
Well, see, with depression, I have I don't know if I have it, but I had it. Well, I'm in process of it. I had it, but I took citalopram. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the drug,
Mm-mm.
but I recently got off it last year. You know,
Yeah,
because everything's working out for me now. But that
yeah,
doesn't mean that I won't go back on it or get another type of medication for it. You know,
yeah. How do you feel now?
great, great.
Good.
I'm not drinking 6 cups of coffee, but I'm great.
Good. Don't do it. Don't do
No, no.
it.
But see, to go back with what you were saying about depression, it's like I don't think anybody can diagnose depression really well because when you're depressed, you feel like you don't want to do nothing all day long, but you don't know you can't explain it to anybody.
Yeah.
But
It's a
sometimes,
very lonely feeling. It's like
yeah.
it's
And
trapped.
sometimes I never want to do anything the whole day. You know,
Mhm.
when I need to do something, I'm like, I don't want to do it, man. Hey, it just sucks, you know. And I don't think any. Well, I know the researchers are very hard to work with. I think it's a I guess that's a disease, you know, depression.
Mhm.
Um, I think that they're not gonna be able to find it really quick like they do most, you know,
Yeah,
stuff because it's
I
a
think
very weird element, you know. I don't know.
well, and you know, it's like when I was struggling with understanding my dad's addiction and how it affected me, I didn't want to tell anybody about it because I felt
Right.
like no one would understand. I
Yes.
felt like I was the
That's
only one.
yeah.
Yep, and that felt really lonely.
Yeah.
And that is kind of like the space where it's like if you're having these thoughts, it's really easy to spiral, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that, you know, I mean, it's easy now because I've done the work and I can say like, oh, just get your head straight. But it's like it's hard. It's really hard. And I don't want to sound like I don't have, you know, compassion and understanding for people suffering with it. But I do want to just say that I believe that there is a way out, and I do believe that a lot of that is like connecting with other humans
Right. Yeah.
and being vulnerable to share because, you know, it's once once I started sharing, it was like, okay, I'm not the only one here actually, like, you know, but it took me years. Like,
So
yeah. Yeah.
the main purpose of this podcast is me and Blake, my co-host,
Mhm.
he has depression and anxiety, and we don't want anybody to feel like the way we do when we're depressed or anxiety. So I think the more people that come on this show and talk about it, the more our listeners will say, okay, well, maybe I can tell X, Y, and Z about what I have and
Mhm.
try to get some kind of form of help. you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many resources even now with like Zoom.
Yes. Yeah.
There like therapy. I don't know if you are familiar with BetterHelp.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I know. I listen to a few different podcasts that talk about BetterHelp all the time, and it's basically like affordable therapy. And what's cool about it, what I think I haven't tried it myself, but from what I've heard is that you can switch therapists at any time, and they don't charge you for that because from my experience, like it did take a while to find the right person who I trusted, and two, who actually had the right type of therapy for me, because there's a lot of different types of therapy out there, and I think that can be really overwhelming too, because if people are like, oh, just go see a therapist, it's like, no, no, no.
That,
Like
yeah, yeah.
there's, because you have to, I think you have to sort of resonate with your therapist
Right.
on a level. And because if you just go and it becomes a place where you're complaining, it still is helpful because you're getting it off your chest, but I don't think that you're going to actually be able to sort of process some of that,
That
It's
and your therapist might be not be specialized in the category that you want them to be. And
yeah.
not gonna listen because they don't know anything about it, you know. And it's so great that you said the thing about BetterHelp because we just got approved to work with them, work with them and for them. So yeah, so
Oh,
we're
cool. That's
we're
amazing.
yeah, so we're writing out our little a monologue and we're gonna do the whole commercial thing about it.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
us.
and
It's so great. Yeah.
it's amazing. Like you don't need insurance even,
No. No.
and people make it a huge thing like, oh, I have to do this before I can do this. It's like, no, if you want help, there is help available today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I find it the best kind of music to listen to when you are depressed is the Beatles. Oh my God, how I love the Beatles. And I'm sure you do, correct? You like the Beatles?
For like many years in a row, my Spotify Wrapped always had the Beatles as one of my favorite artists. And I was like, when
Yes.
did I listen to the Beatles? But
Beatles,
they have so many hits. It's like I don't even realize when they come on because they're just part of who I am, apparently.
well, the reason why there's a leadway. The reason why I brought up the Beatles was I found out that you were a part of the Beatles Fest.
Yep.
And I saw you had an event in San Diego last year. So can you please tell us or tell me what is the Beatles Fest?
Sure. Oh man, it
That
was a
sounds so great.
really fun event.
Yeah.
I guess it was something that they did every year before COVID, but this was the first year that they brought it back. And
Right. Yeah.
it's at this all ages venue called Queen Bees in San Diego. And there's like three different stages. There's sort of the main room that feels like a school auditorium, basically, with a proper stage. And then there's a little acoustic stage out in the back. And then the third stage is where we played, and it's on top of this giant double-decker bus
Oh, nice.
outside.
Yeah.
And it was so fun. I mean, there were a lot of people. They had vendors of Beatle memorabilia, food vendors, some vintage clothing, records, all of that. So, yeah, it went all day long too, because I
Good.
mean, we got there, kind of midday, and they'd already been going for a bit. And I think that they went until like 10 or 11 or something. They like went over, hours over. But there's a huge Beatles following
Mm.
across the country, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's you can't really feel bad when you're listening to Beatles songs.
Oh,
Like,
that's great. That's great. Okay, so that be mean to put you on the spot. What's your favorite Beatles song ever?
it's hard.
I
Um,
know. Mine is
yeah, I mean, I love like "Don't Let Me Down," or
Great.
I remember my stepdad said his favorite Beatles song was oh my gosh, now I'm forgetting it. Is it Spanish Wood, or like she once looked at me, da, 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 isn't it good? Oh, Norwegian Wood. Okay.
Right, yeah.
I just sing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's great.
yes, I remember that was one of the first ones I learned on guitar. Just because I know that he liked it, and I thought that was like, it's a really catchy, cozy tune, you know.
Yeah, so Let It Be would be my favorite Beatles song ever made. My aunt Molly got me into that one, and yeah, when the Beatles mean so much to me because when she passed away a few years ago, uh, all these Beatles memories that we talked about prior, when she was living, just rushed back, So Beatles,
Yeah.
this is like my two. Besides Nirvana, I love I love Nirvana, So my mom made me they made me a fan of Elvis. My aunt made me a fan of the Beatles, and I made myself the fan of Nirvana, of course.
Nice.
Those are my three main bands ever. So,
Cool.
but you mentioned you were that you taught yourself how to play guitar.
Mhm.
So what advice? Okay, so if my listeners are wanting to pick it up, what advice would you give them to actually start playing?
Just play.
Let's do it, right? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, honestly, like when I first learned, I tried to learn it first in like middle school, high school, and it was really hard. It's like your fingers have to adjust to these weird positions, and the strings like cut into the tips of your fingers, and so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
hard to like hold down the strings. But the more that you do it, the easier it gets, and then it gets more fun.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
kind of
Yes.
have to just like push past that hump. And like, I think when I was learning these very technical songs, like it was hard for me to really get into it because I wanted to sing. And so when I finally picked it up later on, I got this app, guitar, I forget, guitar
Hmm.
chords, or ultimate guitar chords.
Okay.
And yeah, and so I could look up songs that I wanted to sing. And even if I couldn't really play the notes very well, I could just sort of pretend. And eventually I got better. And then I started learning like harder chords to play. And um, then I had to go back and like actually learn the notes on the fret chord and all that. But I think that's the hardest part, is just like getting your hands sort of strengthened, because it gets fun once you like get past that part.
So what would be the first song that you would recommend? Because I know that Tom Petty has like three chords, plays all the way through. There's
Yeah.
your songs that are really easy for you to. I mean, for you,
Yeah.
what was your first song that you learned like all the way through?
Oh man.
You
I don't know if I had just one. I
Yeah,
remember Jolene was one of the first ones.
yeah.
Like I spent a lot of time on Fleetwood Mac. Any kind of country music is typically pretty simple, because they actually even call it like the cowboy chords, because it's just like the open chords,
Yeah,
because yeah, you don't need to use your finger to hold down all the different
right.
strings all at once. So that's like kind of I think a good place to start is if you have any country tunes that you like, then,
Yeah,
or some of the Nirvana songs are not too bad. Like I
right.
think,
They're mostly like power chords. I don't
yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah. But power chords can be hard at first, like
but they could be really easy because it just takes two or three fingers to in some
that's true.
of chords. I mean, because I've heard that the F chord is like death to most guitarists learning that
Yeah.
the F chord and and,
Yeah,
and
bar chords, I guess, is what I'm talking
maybe
about.
bar chords is like the
Yeah.
death of anybody playing the guitar first.
Yeah, power chords is a good place to start.
Yeah, because I usually your whole hand, right, your whole fingers.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, uh, I wouldn't know this personally because we learned that you started a couple of businesses first.
Yeah.
So what would you recommend someone who wants to start their own business, like point A to point B,
Ooh,
or
that's
like if it's like yeah.
a good question.
Mhm.
I think when I first started, yeah, I've started a few businesses.
Yeah, and yeah,
Um,
I don't know what I mean, 6 cups of coffee. I mean, come on now. Yeah.
yeah, well, it's like if you have an idea and you really believe in it, um, it can be blinding, you
Right.
know? And so it's really easy to register your business or like to get a credit card and like be like, oh, I'm gonna pay for this stuff on credit to start my business. But I think the best advice I could give is like try starting out really small and try just to validate your idea, you know? So like if it's something where you are making a product, like make one or two and like, you know, get some feedback from friends or something like that. Like until you sell one,
Yeah.
like you don't have to go all in and go all crazy at first. And I've definitely made that mistake.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but you know, because it's tempting, it's like you're excited and then you're like, oh, I need this equipment and I need this sort of thing. And oh my gosh, I have like I mean, I've thrown out a lot of them, but I've at one point had like 6 different types of business cards with my name on it, you know, and it's like,
I did.
okay, I don't
I
know
did.
if that was necessary.
Because now I have one of those digital cards where you just scan it with your phone
Oh, smart.
and it brings it right. Okay, because I'm like, because if like one thing changes, you gotta make a whole new box of cards.
Hmm.
It's expensive, you know.
Yeah, it adds up.
Uh,
Yeah,
yes, yeah, that adds up a lot because I've been through it too. So I mean, yeah,
yeah,
like a digi card or something, digital one.
yeah. And like I've, you know, I've gone into it with the best intentions. Like I'm gonna make
Yeah,
this thing because I want to help people, or this is gonna, you know, like and not everyone shares my vision, you know. So it's like and maybe it is a little bit of a crazier idea too. So, you know, the just don't be afraid to start small and like one day at a time, just do a little bit each day, you know, and it'll build. And I think once you start trusting in that process that you're working on it just a little bit each day, like things naturally start to unfold. And
I guess
that,
that's the best advice.
yeah.
Because you gotta crawl before you can walk. You know,
Hmm.
you gotta
Hmm.
walk before you can run. So it's the uh yeah, take it one day at a time. Don't rush anything. Like I've been trying to do better myself with. You know,
Yeah, and don't compare
uh,
yourself. Oh man, that is the number one trap for any artist or any entrepreneur.
thank you for saying that because I did it. I do everything that you just said not to do. Me and you all already done it. Because I compared myself with so many podcasts that didn't even talk about music. I'm like, why am I comparing myself with this when they have a whole different. So yeah,
Mhm.
take one step at a time and never compare yourself. That is awesome, awesome stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's like honestly good advice for life in general, but especially if you're like trying to start something creative or a business.
Right. So,
Yeah.
so you started a lot of businesses that we just discussed. So let's talk about a little bit about the music industry and where it's going today.
Yeah.
Since we've been doing this for almost 3 years now, February next month,
Cool.
and the more and more I interview musicians, the more and more I learn about they're wanting to go to indies, an indie label,
Hmm.
or starting a whole record company like Slipknot and Nonpoint.
Cool.
Um, are you signed to a major label, or did you go to indie route? Or
I'm yeah.
because my main question is, what does it take to make it in today's music industry as opposed to you know
40 years ago or something.
Yeah, like the 1970s, 80, yeah.
It's definitely very different. I think, typically to even be considered by a major label these days, you really have to have a huge following.
Right.
And so you definitely have to, do like all the online stuff to scale. So building up your TikTok, building up, Instagram, YouTube, all that, and I think that's something that I strive to do because I do believe in the power of music, and I do want people to feel like they're empowered and they're worth it, and I want to write songs that make people feel that way, but I think for me it's really important that I grow from like an indie and honest perspective, which means, like never paying for followers, really just putting in the time to network with your community, to meet with other bands, to uplift them, book shows with them. And ultimately, if you can be successful as an indie artist, like that's huge because
Yeah.
you're going to be more sustainable anyway. Like if you get signed with a major record label, essentially they're just giving you a loan. So you could do the same, exactly. You could do the same thing, like incorporate a business and go to the bank and get $100,000, or, if you have good credit, like, of course, there's a lot of factors that depend on that. But take out a small business loan and put it into your music. And you could do that tomorrow and it'd be almost the same thing as signing with a major label. You wouldn't have all of the support and access to co-writes as you would with like a large label, and they have teams of people with experience. So that's, pretty huge. But essentially, if you don't know how to spend that money and to make your money back, then you're going to end up the same exact way as if you sign with a label. So, for me, like it's really important to figure that out. And if the opportunity comes around where I have the opportunity to sign with the major label, like, by then I would love to have say in confidence that like I know exactly how I'm running my music business, and I think that would give me a much greater chance of survival. A lot of people, there's like a crazy statistic about this, which I don't know completely off the top of my head, but it's like 80% or something of artists who have been signed to major labels and then file for bankruptcy because they can't make the money back.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because if you'll let me tell you a story that I've heard about one TikToker. I forgot his name. He's really getting well known now.
Yeah.
He said that he signed with a major label first, didn't turn out to be much of anything.
Mm.
After they released him, he started making music for himself on an independent label. He started making all these fans, all these gigs and get booked here and there, and the music label wanted him to come back after he did everything himself
Of
that they could
course.
not do. Like, bro, you don't need to go back. Just continue. And he's like, okay, well, yeah. So that's one of the ways that they'll get you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then another artist saying that if you sound like if you sound so much like somebody else, that put you on the shelf for like years
Mm.
while still being under contract, so you can't do nothing. So that's yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend anybody being on a major label, but I mean, if you got to make ends meet,
Well, yeah, I
you,
think just being smart about it,
yeah.
like, never sign a contract that you haven't had reviewed by a lawyer. And if you,
See, that's the main thing. But no, I mean nobody has money for lawyers when you first start. So it's like what do you do?
Yeah.
So,
And that's, that's tough. But if you, and do you ever listen to Ari's take?
no, I have
He's a
not.
podcaster.
Okay.
His podcast is actually how to make it in today's music industry or
Oh,
something along.
nice. Okay, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I don't know if he has resources on there for like music attorneys and stuff, but I feel like, in today's Google world, it wouldn't be that hard to find a lawyer, or like,
Yeah.
I don't know if people are listening to this, like DM me and I'll connect you to my guy.
Nice.
Yeah.
We have two more questions because I don't want to take up all of your time. So,
Okay.
um, so you said what I said you have 3 new singles coming out this year.
Well,
Hold on, wait a minute. In 2022,
yeah, last year
Okay.
I do have
You do
at
have
least 3 more coming out this year, but I think
yeah,
yeah.
okay, great. Yeah, okay. Praying on to my okay. So, Save Yourself
Mhm.
was written about your father, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And his well, I don't want to. I'm gonna let you share what it's about because I don't want to step on anything.
It's okay. Yeah. Save Yourself, I wrote um sort of as like a plea, I guess, at that time he had just gotten like was separated from my stepmom, and I think that she was the last thing that was sort of holding him together. And so, I wrote the song just, I don't know, I don't, he never got to hear it, unfortunately, but I really was trying to encourage him to stop drinking. And at that point it was beyond his alcoholism had really just
Yeah,
taken over his brain, and I think probably his body, so um I don't know, I felt like it was sort of a shot in the dark, but um that's the power of music. You just got to let it flow sometimes and go with it. So, if it inspires someone else, I know when you are in an addictive cycle, it's very hard to actually pull yourself out. Like most of the time you will need some sort of intervention. God willing, you have people around you that actually do that for you. Because I know that the idea of an addict saving themselves is really rare.
yeah,
And it's it's really sad, but I think if nothing else, if somebody hears the song and they're like, oh yeah, I can do this, because ultimately, even if an addict like my dad went to rehab, which he did, he then had the choice to stay sober or not, and so it's like we have a choice every day, even if we don't have diagnosed addictions. Like we have a choice every day to wake up and either be grateful or be a victim,
yeah. Right.
and it's really easy to slip into that victim mindset, but at the end of the day, it's like we are alive, we are here, we are breathing.
Right.
And it's like if you just even start with being grateful for the things that we take for granted, it really changes your entire day.
Right. Yeah, that's so well put. And was that after you wrote it and recorded it, was that like a full blown release for you?
Yeah. Yeah, it was my first fully produced single. So
No. I mean release as in like feeling like I got that out of my system. I can
oh yeah,
process.
cathartic.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, recording it, I cried.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
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 But that's good though, because I heard the more emotional you let out, the better you are on the inside going, you know, forward in life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And, they say you got to feel your feelings and,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
so,
Cool.
yeah.
So, can you tell us more about the songs that are releasing this year?
Sure. So the other songs I put out last year were Galaxies Collide and CSR. So Galaxies Collide, I made a music video with my friend Glenn, and you can check that out on YouTube. It's probably my favorite video we've done so far. CSR, I have a video coming out this year for that song, and then I recorded 2 singles, Satellite and Lonely Rider with Sweet Myths last
Nice,
summer. So
nice.
those will be the next 2 singles coming out. And um, you know, it's really interesting now, it's having time to reflect, and also, been doing lots of different types of therapy myself. Like, um, a lot of the songs that I wrote, I didn't really even see a thread necessarily that like tied them all together, but I know that I write a lot of love songs, and I've been learning a lot more about like codependency and sort of this idea of um of repeating our childhood patterns. And so um both Lonely Rider and Satellite are about relationships, and it definitely ties into the same theme of addiction and codependency, and what I thought was love.
Yeah, yeah,
And now I'm just really grateful I have a whole different definition of what I believe love is.
nice.
So yeah.
So, is it too much to ask you what does love mean to you now?
No, no, not at all.
Good,
Um,
because I'm
you
so
know,
interested.
well, I think loving anyone else, I think, starts with loving yourself,
Right.
because it's that idea of like you have to have your cup full before you can pour it out and help others, or like you have to put your air mask on if you're in a plane before you help others. And um in especially growing up with my dad, who he did the best that he could. He really did love my sister and I, but
Mm.
um it was really hard sometimes because I felt like he wasn't really able to be present for us. It was very much um on his terms, or on the addiction's terms, and so even like being with him, I always felt this sense of loneliness. And so a lot of the songs I've written have been about that feeling. And it's like, now I know that like I can access this feeling of wholeness without having the need for attention or excitement or fun from another person.
Nice. Well, yeah, because that's really well, hell, that makes perfect sense. I mean, because everything revolves around you having to believe in yourself first and foremost before anything. I think,
Mhm.
right? Yeah, that's another.
Yeah.
Yeah, another.
Yeah. And I'll say, and a big part of it too was like I was brought up going to a Lutheran church. And so, I was taught to believe in God. And for a while, I was really mad at God. I was really like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, this is not,
It's not okay, dude.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And I think that there's been a lot of really crazy moments in my life where I'm like, you know, give me a sign. And then like the sign appears and I'm like, okay. I I don't know. I can't turn a blind eye to that. So, I think just understanding whether it's God or the universe, or understanding this like deeper connection that we all share as human beings, has really helped me a lot, because it's like we're never truly alone. you know.
Right. So great response for that. One more question, and then we'll let you go get your 10 cups of coffee because everybody needs it.
No more coffee.
At least like one a day, right?
Yeah, I've moved on to green tea now, so yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so this might be the hardest question yet.
Okay.
So uh our podcast is called, When Words Fail, Music Speaks.
Mm-hmm.
And they thinking from the truth. So are you able right now to tell us how which artist or song or album do you go to that you can't tell me, your sister, your fans, how it makes you feel inside? Did I say that right? Do you? Do you?
Like an album that already exists that makes me feel how I feel right now, or
Okay, so if you listen to the song and you can't explain how it makes you feel inside, what
mm,
song or artist would that be? Or album? You know, I mean,
yeah,
because we see with
that's a
me,
hard question.
yeah, because see with me, Eric Church's Talladega is something that I can never explain how it makes me feel deep inside.
Mm,
It's just something to my soul that I can't really express, you know?
yeah.
I mean, is there like one song or a couple songs that does the same thing to you?
Um, I mean, I think that there's quite a few. I think like, oh man,
Mm.
there's so many songs that just I put them on and I just like get into this trance. And I think that it's sometimes they make me feel really sad and sometimes they make me feel really happy. I mean, like there's this DJ called Lord Echo, and whenever I put his stuff on, I just like feel like
Everything,
my heart is dancing. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
like funky disco. And
Okay, so that was DJ Echo
Lord Echo.
or Echo. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Um if I feel like I want to cry, like maybe I'll listen to New Order or or Death Cab for Cutie.
Um,
Um though yeah, both great bands. I Yeah, man, that's a hard question. I don't know if there's one, at least not off the top of my head. I might have to like email you later.
well, I mean, because you actually answered my question perfectly.
Mm,
I'm not expecting you to tell me how it feels because you don't know. You don't know how it makes you feel sometimes. And I get
yeah.
like that too. Because there's a few. Okay, so I got Eric Church, Luke
Hmm.
Combs, and I think those are the main two guys that when I hear their songs, I can't. I don't. I don't know how to express it. How it makes me feel to you. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Move me in some way. So
Yeah.
like a pleasant way. It's not like like a hateful way. It's more like a because when I listen to music, I listen to it like all times of the day when I'm happy, sad, depressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mostly listen to it when I'm depressed because that kicks me right out of it.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
something about music that does it to me.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast with Rick Rubin the other day, and he was saying that, music has the ability to meet us where we are in that moment.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important because it's like it could, you know, it could be a really angry song, it could be like a really happy song, but because we're being met in that moment and we're like recognizing ourselves in the song, it's like that relationship is love,
Mm. Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
And I think that that's part of the magic of it all.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Cool. Awesome. Awesome. So everybody listening to this awesome conversation, you can find Miss Courtney at TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. There's many, many more links. I will link her link tree in the description, and you can go to her website, which is CourtneyMcKenna.rocks.
Yes.
.com.rocks. How did you obtain that dot rocks?
I remember I was with my old guitar player in Brooklyn, and I'd only put out acoustic records at that point.
Right.
So I was looking at domain names, and we were both sort of, having a computer work study sesh. And I was like, oh, they have, I don't know, it's just an offering. Like, they have this domain .rocks. I was like, should I do it? He's like, if you're going to do it, you got to commit to it. And I was like, all right, here we go. Like,
awesome. I wish I knew about that one before I registered my domain. So within due time, I'll probably switch over to .rocks. I don't know, but it's but it's CourtneyMcKenna.rocks. So thank you very much. This was awesome.
Thank you so much. It's a really fun conversation.